new developments in last Monday's fatal shooting in Clearview Heights. CP24's crime analyst Steve Ryan is on that story tonight.
Traffic woes, bike lanes, Doug Ford's getting involved in city roads, but Mayor Olivia Chow's not happy.
And the escalating rift between Canada and India, both countries kicking out the other's diplomats. We'll have the latest right ahead.
And hey, Lena, all they do is spin, spin, spin. Looking at the Taylor Swift effect as fans get ready for her Toronto concerts.
You're watching Live at 5.
Good evening. I'm Bakari Savage.
And I'm Lena Latafat. Welcome to Live at 5. Well, police have identified the victim of a deadly shooting near Black Creek in Trethewey last week, and they're continuing to appeal for information about the killing.
CP24's crime analyst Steve Ryan has the latest in this case. Steve.
Yeah, Bakari and Lena, we heard from the detective sergeant in charge of this homicide here at 12 Division earlier on. Today, she made an appeal for witnesses to come forward with regards to the homicide of this 26-year-old man named Marvin Baugh. He was killed on October the 7th, and he died at the rear of 83 Clearview Heights. Now, police say that there were many people at the back of that apartment complex when the victim went out onto the street and he succumbed to his injuries on the street. He was actually rushed to hospital, but they weren't able to save him. Police say that there were many people, dozens of people in the back of this apartment complex when this victim died, but nobody's cooperating. So they have zero witnesses right now, and there's no video surveillance in this apartment complex, so they are stuck. They are looking for information that's going to help them identify the suspect or suspects and give them information so they can provide it to the family. There's nothing more frustrating for a homicide detective when you are unable to provide a family with any sort of synopsis as to what happened to the loved one, let alone identifying somebody who was responsible for the death. Just giving the family some sort of information as to what went on. When you don't have that, it can be very frustrating and gut-wrenching for any investigator as well. What police do tell us is that the 26-year-old was shot in the stairwell of that apartment complex. He made his way out onto the back of the property, and he died there. They don't know who he was visiting. They do know that he obviously does not live there. They don't know what brought him there. They don't know what caused the disturbance, what caused the person or persons to shoot him. And they are making an appeal for witnesses. We heard from the detective sergeant earlier on today, and we heard from the CEO or the president of the Ghanaian Canadian Association of Ontario. And here's a reaction from the two of them. Let's listen.
From the forensic examination of the scene, as well as the minimal witness information I've received at this point, is that I believe that Mr. Baugh was shot in the rear stairwell of 83 Clearview Heights. He ultimately came to rest in the parking lot outside of there. But what I know for certain, based on the minimal video that I do have, is that there were many people in that parking lot. There are many people in our city who are aware of what happened to Mr. Baugh. And at this point, I'm appealing to witnesses in our city, not only for my homicide investigation, but for Mr. Baugh and Mr. Baugh's family to come forward.
This is a young man, for his life to be casual. Really, it doesn't, to me, it doesn't send a good message to even young people in this country. To me, gun violence should be something that we should all try to avoid by all means. It shouldn't be a way of, life at all, where people should be free or to be in any place without, looking over their shoulders that they could be shot, whether during the day or in the night. That should not happen.
The DS remains hopeful that the goodness of people will prevail and that those with information will either contact the homicide squad directly or contact Crime Stoppers. Again, if you have any information, the police are looking for your assistance because they have zero evidence right now as to what went on. They have zero sort of direction as to where to go with this investigation. So they are making that appeal. If you have information, please give the police a call. On the back of the desk.
All right, Steve, thanks so much for this. Well, police were keeping an eye on two high schools in Hamilton today following a fatal crash they believe was a result of escalating incidents between students.
Let's bring in CP24's Andrew Brennan for more on this story. Andrew.
Yeah, Lena Bakari, according to the police, are saying it's not just escalating incidents between students of one school. It's actually students from two different schools getting also a little bit more in terms of a picture of what happened on Friday around 2:30 in the afternoon. There were 3 vehicles that, according to police, were racing down the parkway. And one of 2 of those vehicles seemed to lose control, and the driver was unable to ultimately stop from careening over onto the side of the road, that vehicle flipping. Also, occupants of that Toyota SUV ultimately ejected from the vehicle. There were several people inside that vehicle. According to police, this is when the 15-year-old, it was a boy in that car that ultimately was rushed to hospital and pronounced dead later. What we know now, according to police, is that this incident, they say, happened just after that Toyota and a black Ford Focus and a silver Infiniti were seen chasing that Toyota from the parking lot of St. Jean de Brébeuf High School. And they're saying, according to police, that students have been seeing escalating incidents from that school as well as neighboring Nora Francis Henderson. We heard more earlier from Hamilton Police. This is what they told us.
We're monitoring the situation. There's been an escalating conflict between the 2 schools. And right now, like I said, we're in the area and we're just we're watching, we're monitoring, and we're encouraging parents to speak with their kids. And we're encouraging students, parents, teachers, anyone with information to please call us and, so we can further this investigation.
Now, an 18-year-old Vincenzino Stumpo has been arrested. Police are saying that they do face charges, including careless driving, or operating a vehicle causing death, and dangerous operation. Now, it's unclear whether or not Stumpo was a student of either of the high schools that are being implicated here. Police also not saying in terms of the suspects they're looking for right now, namely one of the drivers of the other vehicles, how old they are, or really much information. However, they are saying that they're encouraging parents of high schoolers, particularly those 2 schools, to be speaking with their children about safety at school. Back to you both.
All right, CP24's Andrew Brennan live in studio. Andrew, thank you. Well, York Regional Police are asking for help as they investigate an arson in Vaughan.
Yeah, they're trying to identify these 2 suspects. Investigators say a fire was sparked when a bottle with an accelerant was thrown through the window of a business near Bathurst and Steeles on October 1st. Police say the suspects fled in a silver 4-door pickup truck that was heading south into Toronto. Police say there is nothing to suggest the incident was hate motivated. Anybody with information is asked to call York Police or Crime Stoppers.
Well, it's 5:07, 10 degrees. Let's get a check on the 5 o'clock commute with traffic specialist Adjo Ntiyabois. Good evening.
Oh, good evening, Bakari. It continues to be a busy go on most of the major area highways. We are dealing with a problem. Just going to see if I can punch it up on camera. My camera's been acting a bit weird, but they are there. So this is on the 400. If you're making your way northbound, it's on the ramp that takes you to Rutherford. Right at the top of the ramp, actually it's the southbound 400 ramp to Rutherford. Find the center lane block that is following a stall. Hard to see, but it's the vehicle right here that is blocking the lane. Once you head on to the 401, pretty busy as you make your way across the top of the city at this point. Haven't spotted any issues. It's some earlier issues on the eastbound lanes of the 401 through Weston Road and the collectors. Once the stall moved over to the side, was in the right lane, at least that situation did all clear up. And if your travels take you on the Gardner, it's getting busier actually more so on the eastbound side into the downtown core. From Park Lawn through the construction zone out towards Straw. No other issues to pass along. On city streets, just a collision in Etobicoke on the Lakeshore and 37th.
This CP24 traffic report is brought to you by 407 ETR. Enjoy the journey with a stress-free commute.
Adjoa, thanks so much. And staying on the roads tonight, the Ford government is tabling a bill that would change the rules on bike lanes.
Municipalities would need permission from the province if they want to install new bike lanes that would take space away from car lanes. So cities would also have to prove that the lanes will not negatively impact traffic. Transportation Minister Pratmeet Sarkaria says many were installed during the pandemic when fewer vehicles were on the road and their impacts on traffic weren't clear.
Her first comment is always, I never put them in. Mayor Tory put them in, which is true. I've never seen, people are pretty laid back in Etobicoke. I've never seen a petition, any petition, not to mention one with 50,000 names. Probably 70% of the people do not want bike lanes along Bloor or even Yonge or Hospital Row, University. I've said this before, when Rob was mayor, he put in more bike lanes than David Miller. He just put them on secondary roads. It's not going down the middle of the road, putting in bike paths. So it's not about being against bike lanes, it's about putting them in the right spot.
The community's been loud and clear for the last year, and we've just been neglected locally by our councillor Morley. Again, the community, we're not anti-cyclists. I'm a cyclist myself. We're not anti-bike lanes. We support bike lanes. There's places for them, and there's places they don't make sense. And this community has been loud and clear for the last year that they don't want them here and they don't work here. All the businesses are suffering. The emergency response times are increasing. There's numerous problems with it, just from the humanitarian aspect of people's lives that have been impacted negatively.
And Mayor Olivia Chow released a statement. Part of that says, I do not support limiting city powers. It's always better when we work together to get things right, to tackle congestion and keep people safe on city roads. We need all types of transportation. The province should focus on its job of finally getting the Eglinton Crosstown and Finch LRT open, which will have a huge impact on congestion in our city. So the mayor taking a bit of a political shot there. Now, Councillor Paula Fletcher says the province's plan will not keep people safe.
I think it's designed, the ban on bike lanes is designed to grind the city's plans to a halt from Queen's Park, which is pretty standard MO that we see all the time. So I just think for traffic safety, for cyclist safety, bike lanes are really important.
Well, the bill, which will be introduced at the start of the fall session next week, includes a proposal to raise the speed limit to 110 kilometers per hour on all 400 series highways. The province also wants to establish a pothole prevention and repair fund. The cost of road tests is going to be frozen, and any future increases would require a legislative amendment.
It is 5:11, 9 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
And coming up, we're learning how much of an economic impact Taylor Swift is going to have on Toronto when she brings her Eras tour to the city next month. The province says that it's investing more than $100 million as part of its efforts to make Ontario a world leader in biomanufacturing and health sciences.
That's right. The government has announced it'll put $46 million into a fund to boost research capacity at colleges, universities, and hospitals. It's also promising to spend $5 million to speed up clinical trials, $36 million for startups, and $40 million in venture capital funds. The money is part of the second phase of Ontario's life sciences strategy.
Well, speaking of money, inflation slowed more than expected in September. This is according to the latest data released today.
Yes, Stats Canada says annual inflation fell to 1.6% in September from 2% in August. That's well below the expected national average, the desired average. The agency credits lower gas prices for the decline. The Consumer Price Index is the last major economic report before the Bank of Canada makes its interest rate decision next week. The central bank has cut its key interest rate 3 times so far this year to bring it to 4.25%.
The cuts that we've seen so far really haven't done a whole lot to stimulate the housing market as yet. I know I've been on air with you a number of times, and I've said it probably will take until maybe early next year and maybe into the spring before we start to see a bit of a heat up or a stronger or warmer housing market in the springtime. And that's kind of where I'm looking. You know, I think we could see as many as maybe 2 or 3 more cuts before then. And what does that mean for our housing market? I think the Bank of Canada is very cautious about this. And that's why I think maybe a 1/4 point cut in the next few meetings might be might make a lot more sense than perhaps going anything a lot more than that, because we don't want to see the housing market heat up again as we saw a few years back.
Canadians are receiving carbon pricing rebates today. The phrasing on bank statements, it may look a little bit different with the payment being labeled as Canada Carbon Rebate after years of inconsistency. The quarterly rebates meant to offset what people pay in carbon pricing when they buy fuel. The payments, they vary by household size and province.
Well, the Canadian Real Estate Association is downgrading its housing market forecast for the rest of the year. The association says it thinks the national housing market will remain in a holding pattern until spring. It is projecting almost 469,000 properties will trade hands in 2024. That's a 5.2% increase from last year, but down from the 6.1% bump it predicted in July. CREA says sales in September rose almost 7% year over year, but only inched up 1.9% on a month-over-month basis from August.
Well, Uber's rolling out a new pricing system in Canada that's powered by artificial intelligence, AI. So the platform used to determine how much a fare would cost through a combination of time and distance traveled. The new system uses AI to consider other factors, including rider location and day of the week. Critics say that the change could raise costs for riders and lower pay for drivers. Uber's dubbed the updated policy, quote, upfront fares, and claims it'll offer more pricing transparency.
And a new report suggests Canadians will be spending more money this holiday season. Holiday spending is forecasted to rise 10% to just shy of $1,500 on average. That's according to an outlook from Deloitte. That's up from last year, but still below levels seen in 2022 and 2019. The firm says shoppers plan to spend 67% of their holiday budget on or after Black Friday, with 43% expected to spend more online. The report also forecasts that travel spending will climb 20% and charitable donations will rise 35%.
Well, speaking of extra spending, we're hearing more today about the major economic boost Toronto is going to be seeing next month. That's when Taylor Swift hits town with her Eras Tour for not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shows.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
It's going to mean big money for the city of Toronto. Let's pick up on that with CP24's Melissa Duggan. She's standing by with the numbers tonight. Hey there, Melissa.
Hey, Lena, that's right. 6 Taylor Swift shows in the 6 going to be happening here at Rogers Centre around this time next month, if you can believe it. So Toronto, we will be in our Taylor Swift era very soon. And apparently that means a big boost era to the local economy as well. We're hearing from Destination Toronto today. They have been crunching the numbers, trying to figure out exactly what it means dollars and cents wise when the superstar comes to town. And so what we're hearing from them today is that they're expecting a $282 million impact on the local economy during Taylor Swift's Toronto's set of shows. And about part of that, $152 million, the bulk of it, 93% being spent by out-of-towners. And another thing that they're breaking down is about $40 million in taxes. That's going to be brought in for all different levels of government. So Taylor Swift sure is adding up to a lot of money for our city. Here's more that we're hearing from Destination Toronto.
There's really not a lot of parallels for this for a couple reasons. First of all, 6 concerts is a lot for any tour to sit down for that length of time. But it also seems to be drawing more visitors into the city than many other concerts do. She doesn't have quite as many cities that she's visiting, so it means people have to travel. And it's a global phenomenon, and people are traveling for this. People travel for what they're passionate about, and people are passionate about Taylor Swift. So we're seeing that in the travel numbers, and when people do visit, we know that they leave a very significant impact in the city.
And the thing about it, too, that we're hearing about these major concerts is that it's a whole experience. You know, you bring friends, you might buy a new outfit, you might go out for dinner, you got to get a place to stay. Hotels are certainly expecting to see a lot of people staying around here for those concerts. We were hearing from the GTA Association's Hotel Association, and they're saying that already next month trending higher than they were seeing this time last year. Have a listen.
November is not generally a very busy month, and I believe there aren't any citywides or big conventions around the time that Taylor Swift is here. So this is absolutely a fantastic boost to the Toronto economy and the Greater Toronto area.
When it comes to ticket holders, by the way, Lena and Bakari, we are expecting about 240,000 Taylor Swift fans that are going to be descending here at the Rogers Centre around this time again next month, November 14. That is when the shows begin. Back to you.
That's a lot of Swifties. Melissa Duggan reporting live. Thanks so much, Melissa. It's 5:20, 9 degrees. This is Live at 5.
The latest on the rising tensions between Canada and India after the RCMP announced it has linked several violent crimes to the Indian government. And there's a lot of reaction today after Ottawa expelled 6 Indian diplomats. This is in the wake of the RCMP linking Indian agent to murder, extortion, and coercion in Canada.
CP24's Beatrice Faisman joins us live with the latest on what this means for Canada-India relations. Beatrice.
It means really fractured relations at this point, Lena and Bakari. I was just listening to Canada's former Defence Minister, Peter MacKay, talking about it. He says this is quite clearly uncharted territory. We've never been in this position before. The Prime Minister calling these allegations made by the RCMP yesterday as really just a complete violation of Canada's sovereignty and of international law. And I was just reading the latest reports out of New Delhi, and the main opposition party in India is now calling on India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to gather all political leaders to brief them on the situation with Canada and where things are right now. Certainly, when it comes to reaction here, certainly political leaders are completely dismayed at these allegations, whereby essentially the RCMP yesterday accused these high-level Indian diplomats of leveraging their positions within the government and leveraging their positions here in this country to gather information, to send it back to the Modi government to target specific South Asian community members here in Canada, specifically the Sikh community. One of the most prominent Sikhs in this country, Jagmeet Singh, spoke earlier today calling for tough sanctions for these diplomats. Listen.
We will also urge Canada to ban the RSS, which is a right-wing extremist militant group from India that has branches in other countries, including in Canada, that promotes violence and division. We'll also urge Canada to impose severe and strict sanctions on Indian diplomats. We need to take every step possible to keep Canadians safe. The RCMP has exposed a very serious threat, and now let's take that threat seriously and act accordingly.
These stunning allegations from the RCMP and from the federal government, the Prime Minister himself, coming as the Canadian government announced it was expelling 6 Canadian diplomats, the RCMP identifying them as persons of interest in the murder of Sikh activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar in Surrey, British Columbia last year. In fact, one high-level Canadian official telling CTV News that the Indian High Commissioner was told that he was a person of interest in the murder previously. And so the situation continues to escalate. We've been hearing from some of the experts today, including this former CSIS officer. Here's what to say.
Canada did take the right step in the right direction. Yes, India is a major player in the sub-region, but unfortunately what we have been witnessing for decades now is this form of foreign interference coming from India, meddling into the community and provoking very serious crimes in order to try to provoke Canada to take action they would like us to take towards what they call terrorists or murderer.
The Indian government denies all of these allegations, and it, in retaliation, expelled 6 Canadian diplomats as well, who now have to pack their bags and be out of New Delhi by October 20th. So to say it's a fractured relationship now between Canada and India would be a dramatic understatement, you guys.
Yeah, a very serious spat between these two countries. Beatrice Faisman live in studio tonight. Thanks, Beatrice. It is now 5:26. We're sitting at 9 degrees tonight, feeling more like 5, though. You're watching Live at 5.
Well, coming up, an Owen Sound couple, they won it big. I mean, really big. More on this is next.
Welcome back. An Owen Sound couple have picked up their share of the biggest Lotto Max jackpot ever. It's big.
Stephanie and Brian, they are now $40 million richer. This is after buying one of 2 winning tickets to the $80 million draw. This was September 17th. The other winner is in Quebec.
How lucky. It's now 5:29, 9 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
And we're live on Bloor tonight. The Ford government is tabling a bill that will require cities to get permission from the province if they want to install bike lanes that will result in the removal of a traffic lane. We'll have reaction next. New developments in last Monday's fatal shooting in Clearview Heights. CP24's crime analyst Steve Ryan is on the story.
Well, traffic woes and bike lanes. Doug Ford is getting involved in city roads, but Mayor Olivia Chow isn't happy. We'll tell you more.
And all they do is spin, 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 looking at the Taylor Swift effect as fans get ready for a Toronto concert.
You're watching Live at 5. Good evening, and thanks so much for joining us. I'm Lena Latafat.
And I'm Bakari Savage. So the province is getting more involved when it comes to the installation of bike lanes. Proposed legislation would require cities to get provincial approval when adding a bike lane if it results in the removal of a traffic lane.
Let's get to reaction because there's a lot of that tonight. CP24's Kayla Williams joins us live with more. Hey, Kayla.
Hey there, Lena and Bakari. That's right. As you mentioned earlier today, we heard from Transportation Minister Sakaria announcing that moving forward, the Ford government would be putting forth this legislation, essentially stepping in when it comes to the debate of bike lanes like this very busy one that we're along Bloor Street East tonight, where, as you can see, it has been in use. But certain areas and pockets of the city are up for debate when it comes to just how useful these bike lanes are, especially when it comes to large amounts of vehicle traffic. Now, the transportation minister said they will also be requiring data from municipalities on bike lane projects that have been initiated in the last 5 years. And essentially, the ultimate decision moving forward on whether a lane of traffic can be removed for a bike lane will now fall on the minister's hands. Here's more from Transportation Minister Sakaria earlier today.
You only need to look out the window in front of me on Bloor West to see the many drivers stuck in gridlock as a result. That is why our government is introducing legislation that, if passed, would require municipalities to receive provincial approval before removing traffic lanes to install new bike paths, bringing informed decision-making and oversight to process that is frankly out of control.
And the transportation minister also said that existing bike lanes and projects along Yonge Street, Avenue Road, College Street, Harbour Street, as well as here on Bloor, are going to be reviewed by the province. Now, as far as reaction from the municipal level, over at City Hall, we heard from councillors Paula Fletcher as well as Holiday on the topic. Here's what they had to say.
I think citizens throughout the city, and in particular of the west end of the city, including the community that I live in Etobicoke, have been saying for a long time that they are very upset with what City Council has done with the bike lanes. And it's unbelievable that the province has to step in to do something logical. So many people have criticized council in saying that they never fully understood what the problem was council was trying to solve with these bike lanes. And many people knew, just because they live in the area or they shop in the area and have the experience, that there were hardly any cyclists to start with.
Mayor Olivia Chow's office did put out a statement in regards to today's announcement. It reads, "I do not support limiting city powers. It's always better when we work together to get things right. To tackle congestion and keep people safe on city roads, we need all types of transportation. The province should focus on their job of finally getting the Eglinton Crosstown and Finch LRT open, which will have a huge impact on congestion in our city. As the province's largest municipality, Toronto also needs our share of money to repair our aging roads and potholes to keep people moving." So again, looking here along Bloor Street, one of the many bike paths, bike lanes that is often used here. But as you can also see at this time of day, massive gridlock in our city. So it's definitely a hot topic for debate. As far as this legislation goes, of course, no exact timeline when this bill will be passed, but with the majority government, more than likely it will succeed. But we'll be keeping a very close eye on that. Lena and Bakari, it's back over to you.
All right, Kayla Williams live along Bloor Street tonight. Kayla, thanks so much for this. And let's stay on the roads, check in with Adjouen Siaya to get a closer look at what the drive looks like tonight. Adj.
Yeah, it's been a busy one, and now we have a brand new problem popping up, Lena. That's happening through Scarborough on the 401 westbound. It's in the collector lane through Kennedy. Crews on scene of this collision that does have the right lane as well as the right shoulder block. So trying to get out of Scarborough, just a bit of a delay, more so in the express because drivers are trying to avoid it from before Brimley. Then eastbound on the 401, just as you make your way past Mississauga Road in the collectors. Find the right lane and shoulder block to the collision involving a transport. No issues on the DVP, still busy from Bayview Bloor up to the 401, and jam solid on the Gardners. Try to make your way out and head into the downtown core again. You can blame it on the long-term roadwork reducing lanes between Jameson and Strawn. On city streets, just one collision happening. This one on eastbound Queen, right at Shaw. I'll send it back to the both of you.
All right, thanks, Adj.
Welcome.
We're hearing more today about the major economic boost Toronto is going to be seeing next month when Taylor Swift hits town with her Eras Tour for 6 shows.
Yeah, this is going to impact everything from small businesses to hotels, the restaurant industry. Let's get all those details and the numbers from CP24's Melissa Duggan tonight. Hey there, Melissa.
Hi, Lena. Okay, I'm working on my Taylor Swift song references. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling 282 million. That's the total economic impact in dollars that Destination Toronto is kind of suggesting that Taylor Swift's concerts will be having on our city when she comes to town next month for those 6 sold-out concerts. And now they're looking at the total economic impact that also incorporates taxation, about $40 million in tax revenue they're expecting between all levels of government. And as they're looking down closely at these numbers that they're putting together, they're also looking at direct spending. That would be closer, they believe, to about $152 million. I'm going to let you listen to this person with Destination Toronto, who kind of breaks down how they're getting to that number. Have a listen.
So the visitors that come to the concerts will spend about $152 million in the city. That's everything from hotel rooms to the meals they eat here, souvenirs they buy, other activities they do while they're here. That's over $150 million. But then that money doesn't stop working just when they get on a plane and go home again. That money stays in our system. And so when people spend money at a restaurant, the restaurant then goes and continues to spend that money on wages for their employees, on maybe on a design firm to design their new menus, certainly on ingredients and on other costs that they have, so that money continues to circulate through the system, which generates more revenue throughout the city, more wage revenue, more tax revenue, and just supports businesses all throughout the city.
We know that November this year is trending significantly higher by this point than it did last November. So I can't tell you exactly how many rooms are booked at this point. We'll have a much better feel of it as we get closer, but it's definitely trending much higher than it was this time of year for November last year.
So good news for the hotel industry there. The GTA Hotel Association also saying that typically November is a pretty slower month that they see in their industry. We are expecting about 240,000 Taylor Swift fans to be going to these 6 concerts that begin November 14th, so just around the corner. I was thinking back just to the frenzy when those concerts were announced, everyone trying to get hold of tickets. Congratulations if you were able to get one. And something else we want to mention too, Bakari and Lena, that those numbers coming from Destination Toronto, they do not include ticket fees. They do not include flights to and from the city, saying that that money that is usually kept in other areas, not here in Toronto. So just to give you an idea, when they look at that $282 million total economic impact that they're looking at, just how big of an impact that Taylor Swift and her fans expected to have here in the city. Back to you.
24's Melissa Duggan with the Taylor Swift effect in Toronto. Thanks a lot. It's 5:39, 9 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Coming up, police have identified the 26-year-old victim of a fatal shooting near Black Creek and Trethewey last week. Stay with us for those details. Welcome back. Police have identified the victim of a deadly shooting near Black Creek and Trethewey last week, and they are continuing to appeal for information about the killing.
CP24's crime analyst Steve Bryan has the latest in this case. Steve.
Yeah, Bakari, 26-year-old Marvin Baugh was the victim of October 7th's homicide. The homicide squad held a press conference out front of 12 Division here today, and the detective sergeant made an appeal for witnesses. She said that she believed that there were many people at the back of 83 Clearview Heights on October the 7th when the 26-year-old made his way out onto the property, the rear property of that address. None of those people have spoken with police, and there is little or no video surveillance at the back of that building. So they have little direction right now. And the DS said today that she was hopeful that people would come forward and provide information so not only they could identify the person or persons responsible for the homicide, but at least have information to give to the family. As a former homicide detective, I can tell you there's nothing more frustrating and gut-wrenching and heartbreaking than not being able to provide a family with answers as to what's happened to their loved one. All they know is that he was shot in the stairwell of that apartment complex, and they know that because of forensic evidence that was located at that location, and they believe that he made his way out onto the rear of the apartment complex. He was discovered by emergency services, and he was rushed to hospital where he succumbed to his injuries. They believe that he was visiting that apartment complex. They don't know who he was visiting, why he was visiting. All they know that he was there, and they are left with a lot of unanswered questions, and they're hoping for the public's assistance to help them come up with some sort of a narrative as to what actually took place leading up to the homicide. We heard earlier from the detective sergeant in charge of this investigation, and we heard from the president of the Ghanaian Canadian Association of Ontario as well. Here's more from both of them.
I have faith in the people of Toronto. I have faith in people doing the right thing and the people who were back there and saw what happened, that they will, at this point, after doing this appeal, call us at 12 Division, or at bare minimum, if they don't want to give their names, that they will contact Crime Stoppers.
Some of the family members we know, not in this country, they are in shock. You know, to hear that a young man in Canada here has been shot and killed. So they are dealing with this tragedy, you know, at this time, you know, those in Ghana, you know, very concerned about what happened to their son.
As the DS said, she remains hopeful that one or more of those people that were at the back of that property on October the 7th will contact the police either directly, or you can call Crime Stoppers as well. But the police are looking for the public's assistance because they have little answers right now, and there's a lot of information that they need to obtain. Back to you guys.
All right, Steve Ryan reporting live from North York tonight. Steve, thanks so much for this. Turning to a story in Scarborough now. Police have made an arrest in a suspected hate-motivated threatening and harassment investigation. They say a man uttered hate-motivated threats and slurs toward individuals inside a mosque on Kennedy Road near Lawrence Avenue last Thursday.
Well, the man was forced out of the building, and police made an arrest a short time later. 41-year-old Robin Lacatos of Toronto was charged with harassment and uttering threats.
And Mayor Olivia Chow tweeted the following statement: I am aware of the terrible incident of Islamophobia at a mosque in Scarborough that has shaken the community. Islamophobia and any form of hate is completely unacceptable and will not be tolerated in our city. Toronto must be a place where people can feel safe, where they can be free to celebrate their culture, their identity, and to worship without fear. Thank you to police for investigating and making an arrest. Together, we must recommit ourselves to making Toronto a place where people feel safe, a place where everyone belongs.
And police have also made an arrest in another suspected hate-motivated theft investigation. They say Israeli flags were taken from the same vehicle in the Queensway in North Queen area in July and again in August.
Yeah, 30-year-old Hasham Abu Hasham of Toronto was arrested last week and charged with 2 counts of theft under $5,000.
Right now it's 5:46, 9 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Coming up, we'll take a look at calls for better miscarriage care in Canada. Stay with us for that story. Welcome back. An editorial in the Canadian Medical Association Journal is calling for better miscarriage care in this country.
The paper calls for investment in early pregnancy assessment clinics, which would provide a tailored, patient-centered experience with a greater understanding of early pregnancy complications and loss. An accompanying review conducted by the CMAJ found patients seeking help in the ER often receive suboptimal care, with a disconnect between the medical view of a miscarriage and the trauma it causes patients. So the CMAJ says that miscarriage affects 1 in 5 pregnancies in Canada.
Well, a months-long outbreak of listeria linked to plant-based milks appears to be over.
The Public Health Agency of Canada says that no additional cases have been reported since August. The federal agency's investigation is complete, with listeria being found within the production environment of Silk and Great Value plant-based refrigerated beverages. PHAC says it was not able to identify the primary site of the contamination, and production will remain paused until the agency is satisfied with renovations to the facility. Officials previously stated that the source was traced to a facility in Pickering. There were 20 confirmed infections and 3 deaths.
Well, a survey from Rexall suggests nearly half of Canadian adults may not get a flu shot this year.
The poll shows 52% of adults surveyed plan to receive the flu vaccine this season, while 35% said that they were not intending to get one, and 13% are undecided. Those 54 and under are even less likely to get the flu shot, mostly because they don't feel that they need to do it. Those with children at home are not any more likely to get the flu vaccine, with 60% saying that they're either undecided or don't plan on getting it.
It is 5:51 now, 9 degrees. This is Live at 5.
And up next, we're going to talk to Environment Canada's Dave Phillips about why fall colors are looking a little bit dull this year.
Yeah. Well, Blue Jays' Dalton Varsho and Ernie Clement have been named American League Gold Glove finalists.
Varsho's a finalist in center field. This is after solidifying himself as one of the best defensive outfielders in baseball in his second season with the Jays. He was a finalist in left field last season. Clement is nominated at third base, where he became a mainstay in the Jays lineup in his first full season in the big leagues.
And the Toronto Scepters will open their second season at home against the Boston Fleet on November 30th. Toronto's professional women's hockey team will play 13 home games at Coca-Cola Coliseum, which can accommodate over 8,000 fans, by the way. Other key home dates include a New Year's Eve matchup against the Ottawa Charge and hosting the Walter Cup champions, Minnesota Frost, on December 7th. Season ticket memberships have already sold out, and single game tickets will go on sale starting October 30th.
Well, the Raptors take on the Celtics in a preseason rematch tonight. Toronto fell to the defending NBA champions 115-111. That was Sunday. Grady Dick scored a team high 18 points in the loss. The Raptors are 1-2 in preseason action with 2 more games before the regular season tips off against the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's going to be October 23rd. But tonight's game goes at 7 o'clock.
All right. This may not be the best year for vibrant fall colors in parts of Ontario. And the weather is part of the culprit here. Dave Phillips, senior climatologist with Environment Canada, joins us now to explain. Dave, it's good to see you as always. Let's begin with what's been going on. And does it have anything to do with the unseasonably warm weather?
I think so, guys. I mean, certainly the summer, the trees, like the people, didn't like all that rain. And then we came to the fall, September, October, has been warm, not hot. We had 6 days last year where the temperature got above 30 in September and October. We haven't had that. But it's been warm, but it's not been cool enough. You like those days where the night temperature falls above the freezing mark, but 1 or 2 or 3 degrees. I mean, the coldest we've had so far is about 3.5. So it's just been not cool enough to bring on those kind of vibrant colors, that Technicolor look. And but I think it's, and typically it's come later. I think climate change has contributed something to that. We used to get color change season at the end of September and certainly by Thanksgiving. And really, we haven't seen it. There's been, of course, a color change, but it's just been kind of muted and dull. It's not been this spectacular kind of look. But guys, I've got some good news.
Okay.
Yes, we're going to have those cool temperatures at night, tonight, and the next night, temperatures like 1 degree, 2 degrees, 3 degrees. So trees are going to like that cooling. So the photosynthesis will cut down, the chlorophyll will cut down, and so the colors will come up. And then, guys, it's like the best possibility. You're going to have 5 or 6 days of wall-to-wall sunshine, temperatures at night single digit, but during the day kind of comfortably mild. But it's the visibility. It's just going to, there's not a weather spot in the sky, no clouds. And so I think this weekend coming up is going to make up for it. So the best is yet to come, and it's coming right on our doorstep. It's coming, and so it's not going to be a disappointing year at all. A little late, of course, but it's going to be here.
Okay, so Dave, you said the best is yet to come, but where can we see the best colors right now, the best foliage?
Well, I think certainly it's a little later. So I think even in Toronto, you don't have to travel very far, but certainly up in Muskoka area and the Kawarthas areas, not too far from Toronto. This is certainly at the peak or a little bit beyond the peak, but even in southern Toronto and south of Toronto and in southwestern Ontario, we're going to see color change. But even in our own backyard, those river valleys and the colors, the maples will just be, boy, you can forget your debts and your relationships and just enjoy the color weather.
Well, I love that you said, it's a little late, but as I always say, better late than never. So people can get those family photos. They can look forward to those vibrant colors. How would you describe this fall so far, Dave, temperature-wise and among other things?
Well, I think that certainly we spent so much energy talking about the summer, all that wet weather we had. But, guys, a lot of that rain fell in heavy doses. So there was still a lot of sunshine. So I don't think the trees are necessarily suffering because of the lack of sunshine. But certainly the fall has been warmer than normal, but not, as I say, hot. It's been we've not had to spend money on our air conditioning and home heating, so we've saved money. But it's just been more, and I still think there's summer left in the air. Look at these temperatures coming up this week. Temperatures that are 4 or 5 or 6 degrees warmer than normal. I think summer wants to come back. And we haven't had a killing frost by this time. Pearson would have had their first killing frost by October 9th. Well, here here it is, the 15th, and we haven't had frost. So, we've been certainly mild, but I tell you, the viewing weather and an added bonus, this comet people are talking about, well, we'll be able to see that. So go look color change season and then look about just after sundown.
All right.
Hey, you can see the comet.
All right. Senior
Exciting
climatologist
stuff.
with Environment Canada, Dave Phillips. Always a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Dave. It's 5:59, 9 degrees. You're watching Toronto's breaking news, CP24.